bored? You look at this. I'll give you 3 guesses where we're at. One hint, a very large ape has been here too. That's right, we're looking at King Kong's old stomping grounds. That, my friends, in front of us is the Empire State Building. And that right there is a yellow taxi. That's right, I'm back in New York City. And all I've got to say right now is, would you look at the size of that building? That building right there is 1,454 feet tall. That is 290.8 alleys tall. That is one gargantuan building. Very, very impressive. Still not as big as the Loch Ness Monster though. Dude, the sheer size of this massive building is overwhelming. That's crazy. In 1931, when this bad boy was completed, it was the tallest building in the world. While they were both under construction, the Chrysler Building tried to top the Empire State Building by building a really tall spire. So in retaliation, the Empire State Building built this huge mast on the tippy top up there to anchor airships. The original plan was to have dirigibles and blimps and zeppelins dock up there and have passengers loading from the top of that building. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out that way. They only tried once, and the blimp had to circle 25 times before eventually scrapping it because of the crazy Manhattan winds. When it first opened in 1931, it was right during the Great Depression, so not a lot of tenants moved into the building at first, but that's okay. They just left all the lights on to give it the appearance of success. And just 2 years later, in 1933, King Kong climbed to the top of that thing and swatted off a bunch of airplanes, making this a cinematic icon, and started his career as a famous filming location. So many classic movies here, including a recent classic, Elf. Buddy the Elf came all the way from the North Pole to the Empire State Building to see Walter Hobbs, his real father, whose office was right in there. I love that movie so much. Look at this. This is the 5th Avenue entrance where Buddy the Elf entered the Empire State Building. Ooh, I'm going in. Whoa, awesome. I came in here once about 12 years ago and went all the way to the top. I'm not going to the top today.
Oh, look at that. That is awesome. Buddy the Elf was right in here.
But you didn't know I was born. And I love you, I love you, I love you.
That is so awesome. Of course, Buddy the Elf also got kicked out from right here as well.
He came in through this door with so much happiness. He went out of this door a little confused. Buddy the Elf. In the movie, there was an awning coming out of the building right there, and the 2 guys told him, no, you're not gonna come back later. You're gonna go back to Santa Land. Yeah, go back to Gimbels. And just in front of him as he left the building, that's exactly what he saw. Looks a little bit different without all the CGI Christmas decorations on the building. But this is the view Buddy had of Gimbels. Weirdly enough though, we're actually 4 blocks south of the Empire State Building. And what's really weird is there's a similar building right over by the Empire State Building, but this is the correct one down here on 30th Street. This is the intersection where Buddy got hit by the yellow cow. You gotta be careful, the yellow ones don't stop. Not only did they use a little CGI to add the Christmas decorations to the building, but they actually use a completely different building for the inside. That isn't even in New York. In fact, it's not even in the country. For the insides of Gimbels, they actually used part of an old semi-abandoned mental hospital up in Vancouver. They also definitely didn't use these windows for the scene where Buddy's sleeping in the window. Because if you watch the scene where Walter's walking by and notices Buddy sleeping in Gimbels, this doesn't really match up. Whoa, a little break in the clouds. Look at that. That is pretty cool. Gosh, look at this, you guys. It's the Empire State Building. We're in New York City. I love you, New York. No one cares. So many people going so many places, doing so many things. I definitely feel like a very small, insignificant speck in this city.
I mean, I'm from the greater LA area. I've spent some time in London, Paris, but New York is its own special bird. Hey, look.
Is that what I think it is? Oh, wow. It's the New York Public Library. I suddenly have the Ghostbusters theme song running through my head. This is where the Ghostbusters see their first ghost. I'm gonna go inside of there tomorrow. So I guess maybe I'll I'll talk about the Ghostbusters a little more later. Today's just my first day in Manhattan in over 10 years, so I'm just gonna look around at all kinds of random things, okay? Probably gonna look at a lot of places from TV and movies in New York, because that's what I think of when I think of New York. I think of a certain amount of movies. And as a movie fan and a tourist, those are pretty much the things that I am the most eager to see. Ghostbusters obviously being one of the big ones. And of course, Elf is another one, but also a little movie called The Muppets Take Manhattan, where there's one shot of the Muppets popping over one of these famous lions looking for Kermit the Frog. Dude, that is so cool. Okay, I'll come back here later. Let's see what else we can see. Oh, famous New York pigeons. Wanna be friends? All right, no friends, but we'll just head up Fifth Avenue here. Everybody from a big city's gonna laugh at me, but look at this. Look at this steam coming out of the ground. That is so cool, although, look. I was just about to say I expect the steam to come out of a manhole, and look at this. There's a steaming manhole right there. Can you see the steam? The steam! I want to walk across a steaming manhole. Wow. We don't have a lot of steaming manholes in Anaheim. Wow, look at all these people out here hustling and bustling, doing their thing. I'm just going with the herd here, going with the herd. Wow, look at that cathedral over there. You know what, I'm getting hungry. I didn't have any breakfast. And speaking of breakfast, that reminds me. There's some old school Hollywood sightseeing we can do over here, I think. Oh, yes. This looks like a good place to have breakfast. Look, it's Tiffany's. The Tiffany's. From Breakfast at Tiffany's. And this right here is a very famous window. It was kind of hard to figure out exactly the right spot where Audrey Hepburn was standing in Breakfast at Tiffany's, but I found it. See this distinctive marble pattern here next to the entrance right in the window? This is the same angle where Audrey Hepburn walked up to the building. As a matter of fact, when her name appears on screen in the credits, it says Audrey Hepburn right at this same angle. And when the title Breakfast at Tiffany's pops up, she's standing right here, and just over her shoulder you can see that distinctive marble pattern. This right here is the spot. Oh, Audrey Hepburn, I'm in love. Look at this, if she was having her breakfast over here right now, she would see some very fancy room keys for sale. Weird. What was she eating, by the way? It looked like she was holding a pretzel in her mouth while she's trying to get her coffee. Does Audrey Hepburn eat pretzels? That is a very cool piece of Hollywood history right here in New York.
Weird how many New York landmarks I'm seeing, like the St. Regis over here, that I recognize from Mad Men. Even though Mad Men is 95% shot in and around Los Angeles, the show is set right over here off Madison Avenue. I keep expecting to see Don Draper walking around out here with a beautiful lady that's not his wife.
Ooh, he's a bad boy. All right, we've now come over to Lexington Avenue and East 52nd Street to see this hole in the ground. See this subway grate over here? This subway grate over here is a huge piece of Hollywood history. On September 15th, 1954, a huge crowd gathered, mostly of photographers, right here on this corner to witness the filming of a scene from The 7-Year Itch starring Marilyn Monroe. This is the famous spot where Marilyn Monroe's skirt was blown up by the wind coming from down there from the subway. And of course, 20th Century Fox let all those photographers know in advance that something was going down over here. Now, because of the huge crowds and all the photographers and flash bulbs and stuff like that, the actual scene in the movie was reshot on a Hollywood backlot. So the movie set in New York was filmed in Hollywood, but all of those publicity shots, all the pictures of her skirt coming way up from the wind that are on sale in Hollywood, those pictures were taken in New York. The building in the background looks a little different than it did back on September 15th, 1954, but this is the place. Most people online say it was the second grate over here on the street, but as you can see, the grates look a little bit different and the sidewalk looks a lot different. So clearly this isn't the exact same grate over here, and by the way, I've been standing here right over this vent to the subway for a long time. I haven't got a single gust. No one's gonna see my skirt come up. Oh. I keep looking down into all these cracks and crevices that lead to underground New York and thinking of the Ninja Turtles. That movie was all shot down in North or South Carolina, way down south. With just a few exceptions. Hopefully I can find a spot or two used in the movie Ninja Turtles. Man, I love that movie. Wise men say, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. Wow, look at that way off in the background. I can see the Chrysler building sticking up over the American flag. That is crazy. And look, a real subway station entrance. I love how here, this is totally not a big deal. Very ordinary. Just a dirty hole that leads to some trains, but at Universal Orlando or Universal Studios Hollywood, this would be a main attraction. Look, a
fake subway entrance. Now this time I'm in New York because I was invited to do something pretty cool, which I'll show you guys in a couple of days. I almost didn't do it, but I'm here. And because I'm only here for a couple of days and I'm not super familiar with New York, I'm not filming any crazy huge projects, mostly just wandering around with you guys as a looky-loo. That's why we're gonna see a handful of filming locations, a couple of historical things, see some New York sights, hear some New York sounds, smell some New York smells. Whoa. Just dip the toe in, if you will. Man, it's weird to see so many famous New York landmarks in person. Some of them are a whole lot smaller and bigger in a way than I would have thought they were. I don't know if that makes any sense. Ooh, look at all those guys. Wonder what they're filming. Whoa, look at this. It's Saks Fifth Avenue. You know, the one on Fifth Avenue. Weird. And right across the street, speaking of filming and of Buddy the Elf, is another very famous landmark indeed. Would you look at the size of that building? That, if I'm not mistaken, is the world famous 30 Rock. It's the funniest building in New York because this is where they film Saturday Night Live. Wow, look at it. Rockefeller Center. This is where they put up the huge Christmas tree every year that so inspired Buddy the Elf. There's the ice rink down there. New York landmark indeed. And when they filmed the Elf over here in Rockefeller Center, it was business as usual for Will Ferrell because he filmed Saturday Night Live right up there. Conan O'Brien, Jimmy Fallon, so many NBC superstars have filmed their shows right up in that building. Not to mention it being the home of the show 30 Rock. Wow, that's crazy. What if we run into Tina Fey out here, huh? Look at all these people ice skating. I don't know if I could ice skate down there because I would definitely fall. And there'd definitely be plenty of tourists up here like me to take a picture of it, so pass this time. Oh, look at that. There's John D. Rockefeller himself. And right there's his famous quote, "I believe in the supreme worth of the individual and in his right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." That's a nice thought. He also believed in making a lot of money because John D. Rockefeller was loaded. That is insane. What a landmark. Just think of all the TV shows filmed here, not to mention NBC News is also filmed here. Think about how many millions of people from around the world have got their news and information from some of these buildings here in this cluster. It's a very impressive thing to think about. Look at that very famous sign. Speaking of famous neon though, I believe there's some more famous neon right around the corner. I mean, this is pretty iconic right here, but check this out. It's Radio City Music Hall right across the street. It was built in 1932 on land that was supposed to be dedicated to a metropolitan opera house. Instead, it's the home of the Rockettes. Its nickname is the showplace of the nation. Wow, look at it. Beautiful Art Deco architecture. Pretty crazy it was built in 32. And of course we saw the Empire State Building, also built in the 1930s. The Great Depression was a busy time in New York. Of course, whenever I think of Radio City Music Hall, I think of Annie. Remember when Daddy Warbucks brings her here just so they can watch a movie in a private screening? I think I'm gonna like it here. Of course, another thing I think about when I think about Radio City is that scene from The Godfather where Michael and Kay exit the building right here and head down the street. And somewhere right about here they set up a newsstand in the movie where Al Pacino ends up doubling back because he notices the newspaper saying his father had been shot. Not a good ending for their movie. So of course he runs across the street right over here where they had a payphone set up just for the movie right in this area and makes that fateful phone call home that would change his whole life. By the way, you could see those exact movie poster cubbies right there, exactly the way they are now in the movie. Dude, I love The Godfather. Someday I plan on going to every spot where they filmed The Godfather at. And hopefully we'll be seeing a little more from The Godfather this week. But look at that, Radio City Music Hall. Icon of New York City. All right, I'm running out of time today. I gotta meet up with some people later, so we have got to hustle. Because Radio City and 30 Rock are pretty iconic, but there's someplace even more iconic I want to see. Ooh, check this out. Telemundo is here filming something. How about that? Mucho bueno. That's crazy. NBC News back there, Telemundo, and now I'm passing where they film Fox News. Too much information today. All right, guys, if there's one place in New York City that's arguably more well-known than any other intersection, then this is that place. Welcome everybody to Times Times Square. Wow, country mouse in the big city indeed. Look at this. It's like Las Vegas plus Christmas times a little razzle dazzle. This is where they drop the ball on New Year's Eve. This is where all the Broadway shows are born. Look, there's SpongeBob SquarePants right over there. I'd love to see that show. Broadway and 7th Avenue come together right here with a whole bunch of other streets with numbers. Giant retailers spend millions of dollars to have a presence here. It's crazy. So much to see. So this is how you get to Sesame Street. Man, Hollywood Boulevard has a lot going on, but it's nothing compared to this. Let me tell you. The world famous Longacre Square. Well, it was called Longacre Square until the New York Times moved into that beautiful building right there covered up with neon. Well, I guess it's not neon, more like TV screens. That one right there. Hard to tell from all the screens on the front of it, but that building was opened in 1904 as the head of the New York Times, and now it's called Times Square. I believe this is the exact spot where they dropped that famous ball on New Year's Eve. That is so crazy. This place is as American as apple pie. A lot of very famous images come to my mind in Times Square, but perhaps no single image as much as that famous VJ Day celebration photo where that sailor and that woman in white are having a smooch festival right here. The background has changed considerably out here, but this is roughly the spot, maybe a little out in the street, where that sailor kissed that lady. And you know what? They were complete strangers. People were so happy that the war was over. They were smooching on strangers out here. You've been smooching everybody. Snuffy, Al, Leo, Little Mo with the gimpy leg, Cheeks, Boney Bob, Cliff. I could go on forever, baby. Yeah, look at this different angle of the same scene right over here. You can tell they were a little ways out in the street. I guess they were a little behind the intersection. Dang. Two strangers forever immortalized in a famous Life magazine photo right here. Boy, things sure do look a little bit different out here these days, huh? You can barely recognize the place. Wow, there's a lot of people out here from all over the world checking out the sights. It is pretty darn crazy out here. Highly overstimulating. Now, I could be wrong, but I think that this building right here, according to the address, and correct me if I'm wrong, was once the Bond International Casino. Originally a trouser store, then a theater, and then a nightclub where the Clash, one of my favorite bands of all time, had a crazy, way oversold show that ended up making them have to make up for it with a whole residency here in Times Square because it had caused riots and everything. I guess that's pretty obscure, a pretty obscure thing to geek out over. Unless, of course, you happen to be a massive fan of The Clash, which, by the way, I am. Wow, look at this, just a little ways away from Times Square itself. So many Broadway theaters. You got Hello Dolly at the Schubert, Anastasia at the Broadhurst, Frozen at the St. James. Dang, there's a lot going on down here. I am truthfully in awe of all this. I'll tell you what, I've never had so much fun in New York. Every other time I was here was with the band. We were playing shows. It was really stressful because I was driving around a van with a big old trailer on it. There was nowhere to park. New York is much, much better on foot, believe me. There's so much to see everywhere. Just layer on layer on layer of stuff. Now I'm kind of bummed my trip is so short. I want to get to know the whole city. All right, guys, we got a lot more to see. Bad weather's coming to New York soon. So I'm going to leave you guys here and do a little more exploring on foot for our next adventure. You guys have walked around with me quite a bit today. I'm really proud of you. You must be feeling really tired. Well, good news. You've done your duty. You can go home and sleep well. Doing? They gave me a pamphlet and it looks like fun, whatever it is, but I just don't know what they're doing. Standing? They're gonna get in big trouble because apparently you're not allowed to stand anywhere in this city. See? Ooh, I'm standing. Oh, see you later. Better go. Whoa! The yellow ones don't stop.